Welcome, Goddess. I'm introducing you to my dear friend, Taylor Clark Johnson, who is the owner of Beyond Ejaculation. He's spent the last decade studying and experimenting with all sorts of intimate practices from Tantra, Taoist sexuality, and yogic to self directed neuroplasticity, authentic relating, communication, and a variety of men's work. Now he helps others, particularly men, connect to full body orgasms without ejaculating, and to help men last longer in bed and experience deeper pleasure, and using sexual energy for way more than just sex. I don't know many men publicly teaching this, and I am a firm believer that it's radical and necessary for our male friends to have support in their sexuality. In this video, he shares a few methods for ejaculation control, as well as tips for inviting your beloved into deeper intimacy practices. I understand when we are on the spiritual path and opening up to our own sexuality in new ways, we want to share these new exercises with our beloved. And often, too often, I hear from women their fear about their beloveds perceiving their requests as too woo-woo spiritual shit. So, in this video, Taylor shares tangible intimacy practices for you and your beloved that are an easy way to get started. To go deeper, check out his online semen retention course at beyondejaculation.com.
Hello, juicy goddess lovers. My name is Taylor, and it is an honor to be here with you today. And Allie and I have talked for a bunch of months about me coming here to be with you right now to share some perspectives about male sexuality, masculine sexuality. And in this case, I'm specifically talking about people who have a penis, a cock, a lingam, a vajra, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm here to share about that, some about my experience and some about what's possible. And then a little bit later in this video, I want to share some pieces, some ways that you might be able to bring more energetic sexuality or tantric sexuality or conscious sexuality into your relationship with a male partner if they might not be open to it at first. A little backstory about my journey. I have been interested in sex since I was like 15, 16. I was also really interested in spirituality and meditation and energy and all this esoteric stuff from that point in my life also. And went through a long period of being interested in both of these things and finding them to be separate. Finding that the spiritual practices or the spiritual systems that I would investigate would have no space for sexuality at all, and anything about sexuality never mentioned spirituality. And it was this weird sort of, it was like they were mutually exclusive arenas of my interest areas. And I'm sure you could probably relate to that. In my early 20s, I found a book on conscious sexuality. I think it was called Sexual Energy Ecstasy. It starts with this like 40-page poem about sex. It's awesome and beautiful, and it was the first time that those two worlds merged together for me, at least in my mind. And that was the starting point of like a 10-year journey to where I am right now. I've studied Tantra and Taoist sexuality and all sorts of communication practices and done all sorts of men's work. So I share all that just to give a little bit of background for where I'm coming from right now to be with you. And one of the main pieces I want to start with is that I think I'll use the word myth. There is this myth about male sexuality that is perpetuated in our entire culture that says the peak male sexual experience is ejaculation. And that's going to be a big focus of what I talk about here with you. There's another option. I'm here to tell you from personal experience and from helping a number of other men have these experiences. Ejaculation is not the peak experience for a man. Jumping back in time, I remember periods in my past relationships where if I didn't ejaculate with my partner in a sexual experience, I would even I would get upset. Like I would feel incomplete. I would feel angry. I would feel like I had been cheated or something like that. Like, what's the point of sex if you don't have an ejaculation? That was my experience. Like I even verbally said things to some past partners. Like, why would you go down on me if I'm not going to come? Like, what's the point, you know? Ugh. I'm glad to be out of that stage of life right now. And that is a very real stage and an understandable stage that many men, I'd say probably the majority of men, are in right now, because society doesn't tell us that there's another option. School certainly doesn't. Like porn doesn't at all. Porn elevates and exalts the ejaculation as like the pinnacle of the sexual experience, you know? So we have all these influences telling us that ejaculation is the best and it's the goal, right? And as women, a lot of women get that message too. And a lot of women have this programming that has been given to them by society that provides, it gives this sort of idea of worth or value to the sexual experience based on ejaculation, right? If you can make your partner come, then you are a good lover, is the story. And I think that's a problem too. So let's rewrite some of those stories. I'm here to tell you from personal experience that it is possible to have multiple orgasms as a man and not ejaculate. And it is possible that those orgasms can be like way more pleasurable and powerful than any ejaculatory orgasm I've ever had. So I promise you it's possible if you're a non-believer. Happy to be here with you to share that piece. And I want to acknowledge that it's a pretty big leap to go from having ejaculations every time a person has sex to having non-ejaculatory orgasms. That's not something that most people can just like get overnight, you know? So if you're planning on talking to your partner about this or bringing some of this stuff up, definitely compassion and patience is huge, because there's this like entire fucking wall of society that says ejaculation is the thing that should happen. Deep breath. So there are all these different techniques out there for men who want to explore this stuff. I even have a mini course on it. It's an intro to semen retention, a semen retention challenge, and you can share that with your partner if you like. There'll be a link for that somewhere in the description of this video. And there's not as much material out there for women who are in relationship with male partners for how to support their male partners if they're going on this journey. So I'd like to share a couple points with you right now about how you can support your partner to become more multi-orgasmic, or to become less focused on ejaculation as the goal, or to put it in a positive spin, to become more focused on pleasure as the goal and following pleasure wherever that leads. Maybe it's ejaculation, maybe it's not. The first thing I would like to ask you to do, and this is a great reflection question, so if you have a journal or a sheet of paper to write this down, highly recommend that. Here's the question. What, if any, attachments do you have to your partner having an ejaculation in a sexual context? So take a few minutes to feel into that and write it down. You can pause this video and come back to the next question when you're done. But try to be honest with yourself. So again, what attachments do you have to your partner having an ejaculation in a sexual context? Question number 2. What are your beliefs around male ejaculation? Take a moment to write that down, and you can pause this video. Question number 3 is, what desires do you have around interacting with your partner or partners when it comes to ejaculation or non-ejaculation? And again, be really honest with yourself. This is your opportunity to write down your desire, and whatever the fuck you desire is perfect and beautiful and awesome. So, question number 3, take a moment, pause this video, and write your answer down. All right, welcome back. I'd like to invite you to take 3 deep breaths with me right now before we move on. So closing your eyes, feeling the weight of your body, feeling your connection with your earth or the chair or a bed or wherever you are. Take a deep breath in. And exhale it all out. 2 more. Deep inhale. And exhale. 1 more deep inhale. Here are a couple things you can do if you are in relationship with a man who is working on a multi-orgasmic practice, who is working on a practice of non-ejaculation and semen retention. While you're making love, this is a major one, is to be aware of your own internal energy in your body, in your yoni, in your heart, in your lips, in your mind. Be aware if at any point you have this desire or you have this thought that comes up of wanting to make your partner come or wanting to take in their semen, wanting to take in their life force. Because if you energetically start to feel that anywhere in your body, then that's going to create a draw through them, and that's going to make it more challenging for them to retain their semen and to have an orgasmic practice. On the flip side, if you are holding the intention for pleasure and heightened states of pleasure, and that's separate from the desire for their semen, the desire for their life force, then that's going to create an energetic environment that'll be more conducive to them having these multi-orgasmic experiences. Does that make sense? Your internal state while you're making love has a huge impact on your partner. And I say this from past experimentation with past partners. We've tried experiments around this. So, a past partner of mine, without telling me when, and without necessarily doing anything physically different, would shift her internal state towards wanting to make me have an ejaculation, wanting to draw an ejaculation out of me. And usually, when that happened, it would be really challenging for me to retain my semen, and I would. Not only would that be challenging, but I would experience these thoughts or this desire to ejaculate. It was almost as if that part of me was evoked from her internal presence. So that's the first thing that I would be really mindful of when you're having sex with your partner. And also, it's good practice to be mindful of that dynamic before you even get into the sexual touching, before you even get past kissing, you know? Go in with this intention or this idea, I'm not here to get my partner's come, or I'm not here to make my partner come. If you start with that intention, there's going to be a different experience all the way around. The second thing that's probably obvious, and you might already be doing it, is to come up with some sort of communication paradigm between you and your partner for when you are having sex. And this way to communicate could help your partner communicate to you non-verbally that they need to pause or they need to stop and take a moment to breathe because they're getting too close to the point of ejaculation or too close to the point of no return. So maybe that can be like a tap. Maybe that can be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But probably better to make it be a tap or like a word or something like that. I use the tap method, like just like a little, and usually there's a look in my eye of like, oh God, pause, you know. So come up with something like that. And here's the crucial part. When you pause with your partner in that context, without verbally suggesting anything, if you take deep breaths in that space, that will encourage your partner to do the same thing. And if he takes deep breaths in that space, that's going to help move his energy throughout his whole body, from his genitals up to his heart, to his head, down to his feet, and to his fingertips as well. So you're not necessarily leading him in a breath, but you are breathing yourself, and in doing so, you can move some of your energy, and that'll create an environment of energetic movement. A third thing you can do is that if you notice your partner keeps coming close to that edge of ejaculating over and over and over again in a short period of time, then you could even try switching something up in the sexual experience. Say, hey, I'd love for you to go down on me right now, or I'd love for you to finger me, or I'd love to I'd love to worship you even, you could say that. And maybe you can give your partner oral sex. And when you do that, try to not focus so much on the head of the penis and stimulating him as you would if you were trying to make him have an orgasm, but maybe focus on honoring his cock, like the whole length of it, maybe the area around his cock, maybe massaging his inner thighs while you do it. Not necessarily intense sexual stimulation, but an honoring, a physical honoring of that area. So you can switch it up and let the energy move. And again, if you breathe deeply in that space, that'll encourage him to breathe deeply as well. All right, those are 3 things that have been really helpful for me and really helpful for other people in the context of trying to help your male partner become more multi-orgasmic and to increase his semen retention practice. The next part of this video, I want to talk about conscious sexuality and energetic sexuality and tantra, and how to bring that into your relationship if you're in relationship with somebody who is not necessarily open to talking about these things. And I first want to say, and this comes with a little bit of edge, but I want to say that if you are somebody who's really diving into your sexuality, if you're really diving into your stories and paradigms around relationship and how you relate to others in the world and how you show up energetically in the world, it's possible that who you're partnered with right now might not continue to be a good match for you. Unless they're doing some of their own work and they're committed to their own growth, a split is something that can sometimes happen, and it can be really painful. And pain doesn't necessarily mean bad, but it can be painful. So I just want to put that out there, that you can't always make somebody interested in this kind of stuff. Like, it might not be their time. They might never be interested in this. They might never be interested in breathing sexual energy through their body, you know? So a certain level of non-attachment maybe, or maybe just like awareness that that's the case. With that being said, there are things you can do to bring in conscious sexuality and energetic sexuality and tantra to your sexual relationship without talking about it at all. So if we think about if we ask the question like, what is tantra, or what is conscious sexuality or energetic sexuality? Most of that comes back to a state of presence and a state of connection with yourself and with another person in the moment, right? A lot of tantric, neo-tantric exercises involve breathing, visualization, some in connection with your partner. You might do some hand movements together. You might breathe your energy up in spirals like that between your body. And those are all nice, fancy techniques, and they're not really necessary to bring about a state of deep presence. There are other things you can do. And one of those that's really powerful that you can do with your partner to help bring him into more of a state of deep presence and yourself in the process is massage. And that's generally pretty accepted and loved by most people. So you could say, hey, I love you so much and I love your body and I want to make you feel good and I would love to give you a full body massage right now. Are you open to that? And probably your partner's going to say yes, right? You don't have to say anything about energy. You don't have to say anything about presence, nothing about golden light or circuits or anything like that. And when you go through the process of massaging your partner, draw it out for a while, you know, make it a half an hour, I'd say at least, half hour, 45 minutes before any sort of sexual touch happens at all. And focus on his toes, focus on his fingertips, focus on his arms, and see if he enters into a different state of consciousness. See if he starts breathing more deeply. See if you can encourage him to start breathing more deeply. Like you can massage up his chest and around his heart, massage his shoulders open, massage his face. And in doing so, you're bringing your partner into a different state of consciousness, into a different energetic state. And if you start to incorporate some more sexual touch after you've built this deeper state of physical connection and presence, that's going to be a very different type of sexual connection with your partner than if you were just going to have a quickie or if you were just going to start making love in your normal patterns, right? And I'm not suggesting you do this all the time, but try it as an experiment and see what happens if you start off with a full body massage. Because again, massage brings people into a different state of being, and that's a huge part of what Tantra is and a huge part of what conscious sexuality is. So that's a technique or tip number one or whatever you want to call it. Another thing you can do, and this one is juicy. It's really, really good. In the sexual context, you could ask your partner this question: can I touch you for my pleasure? Like, would you be okay if you just laid there on the bed naked and I touched you for 10 minutes for my own pleasure without any expectations of how I should touch you or without any expectations of anything at all, just letting me have pleasure from your body? Would you be open to that? If they're open to it, that can be a really amazing, amazing experience. Because then you're not necessarily touching them for their pleasure, right? They get to be there for your pleasure if they're open to this. And so in that state, if you're somebody who wants to go to these deeper energetic realms, you could embody that energy while you're touching your partner for your own pleasure. You could enter that space of deep breathing. You could enter that space of moving your energy through your body. You could enter that space of pleasure being the goal versus orgasm. Maybe you rub your head slowly up their chest while they're laying there. Or maybe you take their cock in your hands and just like examine it and slowly touch it and kiss it without trying to give them pleasure. Maybe you slide your whole body up on their body slowly and breathe deeply and emit or imbibe yourself with this energy of presence and this energy of deeper sexuality and deeper connection with yourself. And in doing so in that space, just because of the way energy works and just because of the way mirror neurons work in our brain, they're going to start having a different experience of sexuality. And it is possible, not saying it's guaranteed, but it's possible that that might bring them into a state of deeper presence, deeper sensitivity, deeper connection even. And after that timer is up, and I highly recommend setting a timer, after that time is up, if you go into the lovemaking, I would imagine that there would be a very different flavor to that experience. So those are two things you could try that don't involve any esoteric talk at all. That don't involve any new age fluff or anything like that. And I'd love to know how it works for you, how it goes for you. Please reach out, let me know, let Allie know. You can find me on Instagram at Taylor Clark Johnson, and there'll be a link for my other information somewhere in this program. I want to say I'm really grateful that you're here. I'm really grateful that you're exploring this stuff, and I'm really grateful that you care enough about your partner to invest energy into your sexual connection and also their sexuality. That means a lot. And I know I feel really fucking grateful when my partner or partners put energy into adding joy and adding pleasure to my life. It feels amazing. So bravo to you. Gratitude to you for doing that, and blessings to you on this whole journey. Like, it sounds like you have an amazing thing going right now, an amazing life exploration, amazing opportunity to dive into yourself. Thank you for being here with me. I'll see you next time.